Hey everybody, it's Mary here with Midlife and Beyond Discussions, where this week's topic is retirement or reinvention. Which one is it for you, and what does Midlife and Beyond have in store to offer you? Can't wait to hear what you have to say about this.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lorelai.
I just wanted to say good morning. I'm going to Solvay, but anyhow, I wanted into your recording from last week, and I wanted to make two comments. That one girl that said that she had the golden handcuffs because she had the home that she didn't want to leave, but she probably should sell because it had all her assets.
Yeah.
And then this little gal from Germany who said, well, why don't you try? Like, what do you really want? Why don't you try it? Like, rent your house out and try a new neighborhood.
Yeah, well, we're movers and shakers here, Lorelai.
I know.
Was it me saying that? I think
It
I must have
was,
done.
It was.
But
It was me, by the way.
I think what it is that we have these notions of our dreams, but we're afraid and we're kind of, financially handcuffed. But if we just kind of take a few baby steps and try,
Yeah.
like renting out our house and renting another house, or like you renting in Spain or not renting, I think we need to try.
Yeah. Well, because quite honestly, nothing is forever. So if you just keep that in mind,
yeah.
I think that it's easier for you to not take things so seriously. And I understand that finance is a serious thing. Like I'm not going to take that away from anybody. But I think that there are other things that we can experiment with while we are still taking care of ourselves financially. So renting a place, going and renting a place, for instance, in a city, since she has a house in the country, renting a place in the city to see if she might like to walk downstairs and go grab a cup of coffee in the morning. Like we don't know those things until we give it a try. I actually have a funny story about this. So when my husband and I were living in Maine, we owned a retail store in the historic district of Portland, Maine. Loved it. I mean, I thought I was in ecstasy. But we had to drive from the suburbs into town every day. And I thought, why don't we sell our house? Because, why not? Why don't we sell our house and rent a condo on the waterfront and see if we like waterfront living, so that we can walk to the store, we can walk to grab coffee, we can walk to get a muffin in the morning. And why don't we do that? My husband foolishly says, yeah, that's a great idea. So he's my sidekick, I guess. So we proceeded to sell our house, and we rented this beautiful, stunning 2-story condominium on the waterfront in the Portland Harbor. Walking to work, grabbing coffee on the way, saying hi to the neighbors, all my clients along the way. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. The trouble with it was that Portland Harbor is a fishing harbor. So at 4:00 in the morning, our condominium was on the waterfront. At 4:00 in the morning, the fishing boats loaded up, and 15, 20 boats filled with fishermen, half plastered already, are leaving the harbor. What happened after that is when the fishing boats would come in at 2, 3, 4:00 in the afternoon, so didn't the seagulls. And our car, we had outdoor parking. Our car was constantly hit with seagull shit. It was covered. So.
Oh, okay. I got the concept. I got that concept.
this dream, that's dream, right?
Right.
I had to, if I had to go test it out.
Right. But aren't you glad that you did do that? I mean, selling a house is a big deal, but I think you need to try it. You don't know until you live there. Like your roommate, you don't know what they're about until they can move in.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm all for testing. I'm all for testing things out now. So keep the house, right? Keep the house. Just go and try something out for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, so up, whatever. But try.
See, I have a different story. I tried, while I was traveling, I tried leaving, sort of subletting my place back in Germany. And it got so complicated that it was actually dragging me back and I didn't want to go. So next time I went to Germany, I just let go of it. And now I don't have this apartment any longer while in Germany, which is in a way, open up other avenues and other doors. So it's what you're prepared to risk, I guess. And, for some, it's a solution. For others, it's always this shit's scary. I don't know what I'm coming back to. But even for this trip now, I found this beautiful little, 20 square meter apartment for a month that cost like nothing. And I'm back in the same area where I left from. So it was really easy.
Yeah.
But it's really what you're prepared to, experience, I guess. And for a lot of people that wouldn't, feels a little groundless at times, but you meet new neighbors, you meet new people, so kind of like that.
Yeah. And I think too, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think too, like I notice I'm 67, my health, I mean, I have good health, but my cat always looks at me. Can you walk a little bit faster? I think with our health, we should do it. Who knows? Like Mary said, who knows what the future is?
True.
Yes.
Do it whenever.
I think it's a great point, and it's also a scary one on the flip side of that, right? Because for me, living in a foreign country where I don't speak the language, is I have to, trust that everyone's going to have my best interest at heart. And I think I've told that story before, where the first time I ended up in a Polish hospital, the doctor came in when he was ready to release me and said, and I praised him at what great care I had. And he said, we can't let you die on our watch because there's too much paperwork because you're an American. So there are some benefits to I didn't, the nurses and I couldn't communicate other than hand gestures, but all the doctors spoke English. So, I think you just have to, none of us know where we're going to die. So you could die, so, I don't have a token of when that day or that place is going to be. So as you said, Lorelei, why not?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to make one more comment about last week.
Okay.
The gal that moved to Arkansas and invested in a property,
yes,
or in homes or whatever. Well, I did the same thing about 4 years ago, and everyone thought I was crazy. And you live in California, it's in North Carolina. But anyhow, it was kind of a struggle for a year. But after 2 years, I had a cool property manager, I had cool tenants. Instead of making $1,500 a month for rent, I was making $3,500, and it just turned out, and it went from 300,000 to 600,000. So, you know what? I really think that financially, as good stewards of our, like I have limited funds, like I think we really should do research and investigate. Like the girl said, we bought our house and it was, we were new in the community, and then all of a sudden it jumped to $1 million 30 years later. Well, that's what I think, like in North Carolina, we need to start where it's just starting to grow and grow our money. We need to grow our money, and we need to do research to do that. And I highly recommend North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Lorelei, that is a perfect segue into what today is going to be about, which is retirement or reinvention. And how do you get started? What is your, like, how do you feel about risk tolerance, Lorelei? How nervous were you to do that?
Okay, hang on just a minute.
Okay. Oh no, you turned us off. You're muted.
Okay.
Okay, there.
All right. You know what? My personality is like I think it's the internet, the mountains.
There you go. Yeah, it is the mountains. Okay, go ahead. We hear you now.
I'll hurry up. I feel that my personality is my intuition, my gut feeling, regardless of the consequences. And that's kind of what happened with North Carolina, but I believed in it at all costs. No, my family wouldn't even talk to me about it, but now they're always asking, how's it going? How's your tenant? You know, everything's wonderful. But I feel that risk tolerance right now, I feel scary. Like I have a big chunk of cash in my house, like the other girl, and I feel like I really need to sell it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just like she said, her heart is in it. Her heart's in the community. But really, I think it's time to let go. I think the trade-off of what we can gain is much more. Like the girl from Germany, even though, you know, she left her job or she left her apartment, I think the trade-off is much better. I think it behooves us to keep growing.
I think that's a great statement. It behooves us to keep growing, especially at this time in our lives, because it's easy to get scared. It's easy to get complacent. It's easy to get comfortable. All of this other stuff is not easy.
No.
You know, I love my life, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily easy. I have a good time, but it's not necessarily easy living in a country that I don't speak the language. I enjoy it. I enjoy the challenge. Would you say that your life is easy? Oh, go ahead, Lorelei.
But you know what you've done is you put yourself in restraints, in authority. Like you do the money map. You do twice a year family in California or whatever, United States. Like you have the professionals that are your guidepost, and that's what kind of keeps you without blowing in the wind.
Yeah, I think, I never really thought of it. I had never really thought of it like that. But yeah, I make sure that I'm paying attention to the things that are important. I'm not always good at it, but I do pay attention to it. And when I do fall off the ladder, then I don't trash talk myself. That's the one thing I do have to say. That is one thing that I'm really good at. I don't trash talk myself. And I wish that I could create a magic pill that I could give to everybody to stop trash talking themselves, because it's so detrimental to everything and anything that we want to do. So, Kerstin, how do you think that your risk tolerance level is? You're pretty ballsy.
I think I'm right at the edge now with everything that I've done over the last years. And so I started off from a very comfortable position like 7 years ago. Lots of money on my bank account, and I went on sabbatical, and I thought, I'll do this, and then I go to Spain and do the Camino, and then I go to New Zealand, and blah blah blah. And anyway, 7 years later, I'm here with a great vision of what I want to do, how I want to spend the rest of my life, and that's being on a motorbike, and empowering women to come, go motorcycling, and just grow out of these comfort zones that kind of keep us stuck. And so I have just been putting everything that I know and everything that I have into this project, and now I have to actually go and make it fly. And if it doesn't fly, I mean, I'm in a really critical situation right now. So I have these, I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this and who's going to come to help. But then I figured out, now I am right with my back right against the wall, and now I have the only chance I have is move forward. So I think I needed to be in this position where I am right now, financially pretty tight is probably not even the right word. So I'm pretty, anyway, I can't think of the right word right now, but yeah, it's super scary, but I just keep on balancing myself, but I also allow all these fears to actually show up. And sometimes I just cry because I'm so overwhelmed by what I'm doing or what I'm planning on doing, and I just sit and just let it happen, and wake up the next day and okay, let's do it. It's not easy. I'm surely not in the position right now where I do the stuff that I really want to do, because for me it's now planning and organizing and writing and getting my head around and being more focused, and also trying to get a grip on my financial side. So how can I make money, and how can I make money quickly before I drown. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I'm one of those extreme people who need that edge sort of experience. It's just my gut feeling that's where I have to go. That's where I have to be. And from there, I need to create. I could have created this long time ago when I still had a lot of money, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah. I think that's a great notice. And that again, for those of you that are going to be listening to the recording, that again is something that like, for instance, for Kerstin, she doesn't get to trash talk herself about that. That's a notice, and that's okay. That's how she functions. And you may be the same, and you may be out there trash talking yourself as well, or too actually scared to move forward or try something different because of a financial situation, a relationship, your children, your parents, you fill in the blank, whatever that is for you. But if we accept the fact of how we actually work, like what's our MO? Like how do we get through the day, or how do we accomplish anything? If you take a look back in your history, your personal history, whether be it at school or at it throughout your professional life, I bet that you will see a trend of when your feet are put to the fire, then you'll stand up and get it done. No different than taking a test in high school or college, right? Are you the person that, nonchalantly studies every day? Or are you the person that sits up till 4 o'clock in the morning, crash coursing the whole school year to make it through the test? If you take a look at these nuggets that we have, then you get to see a pattern, and you don't get to trash talk yourself. Right?
I think what you just said is really important, that no matter where you are on your journey and it's just what's ahead and what you need to decide upon. It's not so much looking at how somebody else does it, because the preconditions are just so different. And I was in a coaching training a couple of years ago, and I've just figured for me, coaching was not right, because people ask me questions like, if money was no problem, what would you do? I said, well, money is a problem. And if you left your permanent job, then, what would be the worst thing that can happen? So if you've never been in that particular situation, that you were financially broke, or you had to let go of a job that sort of secured your, basically the rest of your life, and then you take the bold decision to go, Nobody can tell me who hasn't done it. It's just not convincing. So find that person that did what you need to do and what you have, but don't buy it from somebody who hasn't been in that same position. I think that's really important. Otherwise, we may just get lost somewhere. And it's every story is different. Every story is unique, and every decision we take has consequences.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yes. I'd like to make a comment. I agree with Mary and this little girl from Germany. Like I do foster care, and we do can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We do we come from what they call a strength base. Like if you ask the kid how they're doing, you kind of say, well, something like what was good for you today or something. And
Okay.
I think this little gal from Germany, I forgot her name,
Kerstin.
and like Mary said, Kristen, you have to kind of go from your strength base, like, okay, I should have done this sooner, but I'm going to make it. And I think that's like Mary said, she doesn't trash talk herself. But the other comment I made is I heard her say something about writing. And for me, I've gotten away from that. But I think when you start writing lists or writing out your goal or your dream, or like Mary had us do a picture board. And the third comment I wanted to make is that I'm kind of low income, middle income, but I've really kind of done well for myself.
Okay, Lorelei, we lost you.
Yeah, that's true.
The people with the low income and the medium income that know how to manage their money, I think they're going to really think this before the holidays. I think they think we're in a good position because we know how to budget our money. We know, how to eat peanut butter and jelly. We we just know how to manage our money. Anyhow.
The other thing that what you were just mentioning about eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches through inflation is that I don't think, and Kerstin, chime in if, the both of you chime in on this. I don't think that we are used to, considering our ages, we've never really lived through a war, right? We've never had to really do without. I don't think that we like the word and we deem these things of having to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches instead of having a steak. We deem that as a sacrifice. And I don't like that word doesn't exist for me. I think that I have choice. I have a choice of where I'm going to spend my money, even if it's 10 cents. I have a choice. Am I going to save it? Am I going to spend it? If I'm going to spend it, what am I going to spend it on? Is it a need or is it a want? And I never look at that as a sacrifice. But that's what I hear all day long is what I had to give up to do this. Well, I just don't look at things through that lens. What, Kerstin, how does that speak to you?
Well, I could understand if people, it's always that come from a point of lack when we talk about this, that I can't afford this, I can't do this, or I have to downsize. But there are a lot of people who just can't make it, so they really have to put money in front. There's no wants, there's needs. But I think for a lot of us, or including myself, I do stuff now differently than I used to. So I would just go, I would just go crazy into a boutique and shop for €1,000 within 20 minutes. So I could easily do that. And now today I just figured, well, I can't do it. And I said, oh, I'm so happy that I don't have the money anymore to go and just waste €1,000 on business outfits that I've hardly ever worn. They weren't in my style. So I was just talked into this, and kind of the shopkeeper thought, oh, Kristen could actually look, you know, a little bit more businesslike or smarter in that. So, but wasn't even really my style. So I have to cut down on, or I want to cut down. So now I'm forced to cut down actually, and I take it as a positive. So for me now, and because I'm traveling so much, I need a small sort of, you know, everything needs to go in a suitcase basically, or into my motorbike bags. So I can only buy what I can carry with me, what I really, really, really need, and that is very limited. So in a way, I'm thankful for that. So I don't have to go shopping every day because I can't carry it. So for me, it has turned into I want this. Not talking about need, because most of the stuff I never needed, but I wanted it because it made me feel better. And I've moved now to I need to prioritize what I really need, and that's what I'm investing my money in now, and that's a whole different story. So all of a sudden I need less. I could do a lot more, but I'm exactly probably just go out of the window and, you know, a pair of shoes that I don't need and the high heels that I never wear. So I, at the end of the day, bottom line is I take it as a positive, and it helps me to not be so scared about not having that much amount of money, not that much money on my account any longer. So it'll come back. I'll make it back, but for now it is what it is. So I prioritize, and I'm okay with it.
I think that's a great view and a great explanation of what you said about
it took me a while to
no, right? No, exactly. This isn't stuff. You didn't wake up like, you know, oh, kumbaya. This is, you know, there's no money in the bank account. Oh, la di da. We don't. We got to break. I mean, I don't know. I know that for me, like, I got to go through the trenches in order to come out on the other side, because I have you know, it's like all these preconceived ideas, which I spoke about even last week, about, you know, my role even as a grandmother, of thinking that I need a house with a white picket fence and a big wraparound porch, otherwise I'm not a good grandmother. Well, I never had that as a kid. Like, I just saw that in the movies and thought that that's what, you know, what I was supposed to have. That made me feel lack. And instead of looking at what I do have to offer my grandchildren of travel, come over here, let's go on a trip. You know, I'm not going to, just because my granddaughter, who's now 12, has never seen the place that I live, doesn't make me less of a grandmother than if she were able to come and stay with me down the street, because that's not going to happen. I wouldn't live down the street, like, ever. So again, getting back to having this scarcity, or being scared, and looking at life through the lens of, am I sacrificing anything, or am I really digging deep? Do you feel like you're digging deep into what you really want?
Probably not right now, more than ever, because as I said earlier, I'm with my back against the wall, and there's only one way, and that's forward. So I need to. I mean, there's days when I just struggle to get anything done, but I force myself to sit down. I force myself to write. I force myself to do a little promotion flyer. I force myself to contact people. So sometimes it's really about forcing myself, because, you know, I just want something done at the end of the day. So, and at the end of the day, I'm happy that I've done it, that I've, you know, that I had that sort of strength to sit through, even though I didn't feel like writing. And maybe it's never, you know, that day just doesn't produce the best post ever, but I just do it. Everything better than nothing. So it's, and that's something that I start noticing now when I get into this, you know, it's such a long way to go still and stuff. So that in order to stop that chatter in my mind, I just need to do something. And I've started observing that I do it more and more and more. So there's hardly a day now where I just sit in the corner and, you know, be really miserable. And then I look at stuff that I've done in the past, and maybe that's also something that's worth sharing. I do so, about my motorbiking trips that I have done, and those I want to do in future, obviously. But then when I do have doubts and setbacks and stuff, you know, no doubt about them, getting shit scared. But then I look back at what I've done last year and the year before, and but just revisiting posts that I've written, or pictures that I've posted, the message that I had, the insight that I gained, that again, it's just sort of, you know, revives my passion, and I'm being put back on fire. So that's for me, that's really helpful, getting through those dry spells and of working by myself right now, and a bit claustrophobic and stuff, but it's it's not always easy. No, that is true. That is true.
But I think that what you mentioned about creating some kind of movement is always looking back to the proof that you have.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Because each of us has proof that we've done something right. I've done a lot of bad things. Like, I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, but I've also done a lot of really awesome stuff.
Yeah.
That I look back on now and go, God, how did I have the balls to do that? But I did. So if we can keep reverting our thoughts, I like to keep a list of the things that I've done, so that when I'm shit scared or in confusion about, you know, how should I do this? What's the best way? What's the best platform? Who's the best person for me to turn to? You know, all of these questions that I have, at least I can look and go, okay, I know that I can work through this because I have proof that I've done something really cool before. It doesn't mean I'm going to do something really cool every time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's the exact same thing. Just doing something. And even that may add up to something. Even maybe that tiny little thing that you do a day that earns you those $5 that you need as an investment to put somewhere else, or for that coffee that you thought you can't have. So I think it's just that. It's really just staying. Yeah, just trying to break through, you know, that voice that tells you that you can't do it, you're not good enough, and blah blah blah. Just this is a way of silencing it, really.
Yes.
And the more you practice that, and I mean, I have, as you know, I've dealt with this for years and years, and if not decades, if not most of my life, really. So that's a hard one to overcome, but I know what works in terms of making it less, you know, prominent, and even to the point where even that critical voice says, "Oh yeah, let's go on a motorbike ride with women. Oh, how's that? You know, we manage." So it's a process, and I think it's also important to actually connect to people who can help. I've noticed now in my circle of friends, or you know, immediate family members and stuff, there are a few who including Brian, who says, you know, you can't earn money with that. I'm like, well, why can't I earn money with that? You know, a lot of people do it. So so try and connect to people who believe in your idea and support you. And all it takes is, you know, reminding yourself about what you've already achieved, from where you've started, where you've actually ended up today. So this is helpful to have these people in your circle of friends or supporters. And there could be a coach, it could be your neighbor, you know, anyone really, or somebody you happen to have inspired. And there's always someone out there.
That was one of the questions that I had.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's great. That's great. I'm glad that you've, you know, took the smooth way into it, because my question was, how important is it to have a supportive people around you? I mean, I find for myself, it's, you know, as I mentioned in previous calls, how important my girlfriends are. But how important is my helpline? Like, I have people that I can call and say, I'm stuck on this, or I'm having a bad day, or I don't know where to go with this. There's somebody out there that somebody knows that can help you to get through whatever it is that you need to get through. But you have to be willing to ask for help. You have to be willing to be vulnerable.
So the question now, I have a question for you, or for both of you. What do you do if you don't have the ability to ask for help? What do you do?
Go ahead, Lorelei. I hope you're not driving and doing that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Back to what you all were saying, in yoga, like my yoga teacher, standing firm, balance. It's kind of like whatever wind knocks you over, you can still kind of feel some kind of center in you. Like, I forget her name, Christina. Like, she really has a strong center. And like Mary, you have a strong center. And so you can always kind of come back to that a little bit. But back to the resources of friends. I have a friend named Tim. And it's so funny. We used to live together in college as roommates. But it's so funny that he'll call me up and say, hey, do you have this? I have he's Korean. I have a Korean relative coming into town to do a sabbatical at the university. Can you help me? Or I'll call him up and say, hey, I want to get some hard money to buy this property in Solvay. Can you help me? It's just, but the conclusion is that even if you feel like you don't have anybody, when you ask somebody you don't know, sometimes it forms a relationship where they start asking you. Maybe it's like we need to ask first to form that relationship,
Right.
Do you think that men do this better than women?
I think so. I think that topic where you say they have more practice because they're more sports oriented, I think you're right.
It's just like when the US was being formed, the industrialists that actually put the country together with the railroads and the electricity and the water and building the towns, all of these, I think that there were like 10 guys. All of these, Edison, Schwab, Rockefeller, all these guys, and they were men. Not all of them had money, but enough of them had money to understand that they were onto something. And these guys kind of forged and built the country, and they helped one another. They were like it was their own tribe that they were involved with. I think that a lot of times women, even though we are the nurturers and we take care of, and we have, maybe you might say that we have many hobbies, or that women will always find something to do to keep themselves busy. We're not necessarily good at asking for help or trusting another person that we're going to get the help that we need.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point about not being able to ask for help because it's the way we grew up, or there's a lot of shame involved, admitting that I'm not good enough to actually do this. And I come from a point of knowing, so because I've been going through this most of my life, and I find it really difficult to ask for help. But I figure I'm getting better at it. I'm also, I think, more than ever before able to actually also show when things it just can't handle it anymore. Like Mary, if you've seen me twice on a call, I would just burst into tears. I said, I just can't take it anymore. I'm just overwhelmed, So I think, but that's a really important learning for myself that, I'm not less not less strong because I, start crying because I just can't take it anymore, but to be able to actually show where I'm at and to say, well, listen, guys, I need help here. So for me, that's a big add-on. And I'm happy that I have reached obviously this point, and I'm making baby steps now, reaching out to people saying, I need help. I just don't know what to do next. And then very often it's that little straw that helps me across, and then until I'm safer ground again.
I honestly think that there is more of that in the world than we give it credit for. I know that in my world, that when I do reach out to people, stuff happens. That when I want that when I have an idea and I'm willing to share it with somebody, that if I'm speaking to the right person, which takes, several tries, if I'm speaking to the right person, it's almost like they can take the idea from there and build upon it and create some kind of magic out of it. And I find that when I do that, no different than me walking into the university and finding an American library there and end up doing workshops for them. That wasn't my intent at all. I never even asked to do a workshop for them. It was their, it was like their, right? It was their idea. They saw that this was something that could work for them and solve a problem for them. I just happened to show up in a way that made me approachable or dynamic enough that they would even consider that. So I think that sometimes we don't even know where the help is going to come from. Like I didn't know if I would say help. I didn't know I needed help in putting together a workshop here. I didn't even think it was a thing. So it wasn't even on my, it was like, it wasn't even on my radar screen. And I think that sometimes if we just show up in enough places or around the right people or in places that really speak to us, like I love to read, like I was at the library to actually like scope out some books and some movies. So I think that if we put ourselves out there, then sometimes magic can happen when we least expect it.
That is true. Yeah. And also one more word regarding the network and people that can be really helpful. They don't necessarily have to be your best friends. Because you may have heard that, when you have a group of 5 people and you be an average of your 5 closest people. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of what how you look at life or how you approach life or your business. And so if you look at your 5 people that you're closely connected with, what is actually their attitude? Where are they at? And you find yourself somewhere in between all of this. But if your friends are not successful or not happy with what they're doing, maybe that's not the place where you should be going asking for help. But
absolutely. That's absolutely true.
But try find those people that have they've walked their path and they know the struggle, they know what it takes, they know the concerns, they know the happiness when something does work, and that overwhelm comes and saying, oh my God, it's have a booking, oh my, how great is that, where am I going to go, I wouldn't go to those people who questioned my business in the first place because they think, it's not very good that you actually have a booking, I thought that's not working.
You only have one.
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to do with one? Oh, guess what? There's another booking. Oh, what are you going to do with 2? It's still not enough, So it's important to have those people, outside your close circle of friends that can, infuse a bit of that energy that you need to pull through those dry spells and until you're up and on your feet. So it's That's anyway my experience, that whatever concerns my bike and soul business now, I don't discuss it with my close friends, because I've had sort of notions about, oh yeah, I'm jealous of your content that you're creating and blah blah. I know you don't have a booking yet. Yeah. So in the way that's something great you're doing, and I'm jealous of the content that you have created, but luckily you don't have a book. So it's that underlying, it's that underlying point. It's not with all my friends. There's some that are different, but so I tend to be really quiet and just yeah, and
I agree.
Then see what happens, and then test it out with someone who's not as not as close as my closest friend. So
I think that this is a really great point that you're making, Kerstin. I think that oftentimes, we often think that it's going to be our friends that will help us, that will share our posts, that will share our website or our workshops or whatever we do. They'll be the ones to share it, and most likely that's the exact opposite of what is going to happen.
That's right. Talk to a writer, and the writer, most writers will tell you, my husband doesn't read my work, my boyfriend doesn't read my work, my best friends don't, my mom doesn't read it. So it's the same for me. It just, nobody reads your stuff. So, and you have to get away from your closest circle of friends, needing to like your work. It won't happen. And it's not because they don't like it, but there could be an underlying issue of jealousy, or kind of, oh, look what she's doing, she's and that's not a feeling. It's not an alien feeling to I've had those feelings as well. So I'm not judging anyone. It's just, this just happens, and sometimes it's good to hear a friend says, I'm jealous of what you're doing, so please leave me out of this, or I don't want to read your stuff, or I don't want to look at your whatever. So that's very human, and they don't love you less. They're just not keen on having a closer look at what you're doing.
That's a great point. That's a great point, that they don't love you less. They just don't need to be a part of what you're doing. And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
And that's on us to let go of those expectations.
It's a tough one in the beginning, when you sort of, you want to share something. I think, oh my God, I just posted my first boys. Nobody want to read it. But at the end of the day, it does not matter, because your readers, or your clients, customers, your coaches come from God knows where. So it's and it's also not overstressing your relationship or your family with the stuff that you think is great, but they may not think as highly of your work as you do. So I think that's totally fine.
So have you ever felt, let me ask you this, because this is a big word in the, aging community, which is feeling like you're invisible. Do you feel like you're invisible at all?
Oh, yes and no. Yes and no. I have times when I am just really, withdrawn, and then I don't really communicate too much. So I can really block everything off and just be by myself. Luckily, I always find something to do. But at times, I have that, especially in the last couple of years, when I thought, I should be on the bike, and I should be promoting myself and my tours, rather than sitting at home and doing other stuff, or being scared. So yeah, I've always had that feeling invisible. And there was a time when I was a lot younger, I used to hide because I was blushing so badly that I didn't want to go anywhere. I was so embarrassed. I nearly killed myself, because I was so ashamed of blushing, and I always thought people won't like me. So that's a time when I felt invisible, and nobody saw my pain, and I was.
Wow.
I mean, I can talk about it now without getting too emotional. But there was a time when I did not know what was happening. I just didn't know what was happening, and I was just felt scared and afraid and alone, and invisible does not, it's not that you sit at home, but also with my problem, with my fears, with my anxieties, nobody saw them, because most people figured, Kerstin always falls back onto her feet, and she's got a lot of energy and stuff, but if that happens, there's always another side, a very vulnerable side, a very, a hurt side, a side that just maybe, is the complete opposite of what the other side is your weak part. So I do have those moments, not as much anymore as I used to, but yeah. But then at the end of the day, I know I'm not, and I don't feel invisible just because I'm not talking to people. But I think it's more a mind game again, and your voice tells you, you want to motivate women riding. Go put yourself out there, go mingle. But there's groundwork to do before I can do that, or maybe it's not the right time. So I think there's different shades, like 50 shades to feeling invisible.
Oh, I think that is so great. I think it's so great. The reason that I brought this topic up, because on Medium the other day, there was a woman that wrote a post of, how invisible she's, I don't know, 60 something, and how invisible she felt. And I wrote a comment that I have, like you, I have moments when I almost want to be invisible, where I want to retreat, but it's a choice that I'm making. Other than that, I maybe it's because I look at life through rose-colored glasses, but I want to experience certain things. That doesn't mean that I need to do something that fits into the norm all the time.
Right.
I don't have to hang out with or do something with people to have a sense of self-worth or accomplishment. And therefore I have never looked at myself at my age as invisible. I often wonder, with some of the work that I do, I often wonder when I become less relevant.
No, that's a different story. But that visibility, I mean, were you more relating to the situation we are in now, or generally looking back? Because I think, as you said, you never really had that feeling. I come from a place of feeling, invisible with my dad, and not being loved and stuff. So you have that that glues to you, like nothing, and it's very, very hard to get rid of. So I do understand if a woman says I feel invisible, and the reason may be very different from my reason, because none of our two lives are the same, but the feeling of not being part of something, or being left out, or not having the guts, or not being loved enough, the reason, there's so many reasons, and as I said, it's 50 different shades of feeling invisible. But very often it's just something, again, that our mind tells us. And you were just relating to that writer on Medium, and I'm a Medium writer. So I come across a lot of people who talk about, not being visible, but then the stuff they write, man, you have to have guts to put that out there, So I think that's a way of becoming very visible. You don't have to show your face in front of the camera. So I, for example, I don't like to record myself. So I struggle with that, and I just don't do it. Mary has a gift. You have a gift of doing that, and I don't want to, or maybe don't have to. Maybe I will one day. But I have, I write. So that's how I increase my visibility and find my voice. It's also about finding a voice and finding a purpose. And that's very different. That could be at home with stuff, or it could be out in front of an audience, or it could be a quiet writer and growing an audience. So yeah, all I'm trying to say is, if anyone out there feels invisible, don't be so hard on yourself, and try see what's there is something that makes you visible. We all have it. There's not a single person who doesn't have that. So that's what I firmly believe. It's just acknowledging the fact that there is stuff that we're good at, and and it's, I think we try to, when you talk about visibility, we try to mistake it for I need to be out upfront. I need to be an influencer, or I need to be this or that, and constantly engaging with people. And that's not how I define it, not any longer. So yeah. Well, it's an interesting, I think that's a topic for a separate, midlife discussion.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll add that to the list. What you were talking about made me think of a book I read a couple of years ago by Shonda Rhimes, the woman that wrote Grey's Anatomy and Bridgerton and several other amazing shows, is that she was a writer and she didn't feel the need to do anything but write. But what her family noticed was that they felt that she had gotten so, I'll call recluse, if I can use that word for the description of this, was that she, created this bubble and wouldn't let anybody in.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, she kept saying no to things. So it was like, if once her shows became a hit, other programs, interviewers wanted to interview her, and the answer was always no. When she was up for an award, an Emmy or an Oscar or whatever, she wouldn't go to receive the award. It was always no, until she was challenged by a family member who said, "You never say yes to anything." And she spent her book is The Year of Yes, and she spent a year saying yes to everything, and how that helped her to change her view on on how she was going to interact with people. And the first, for those of you that haven't read it, the first couple of chapters you're reading it and it's like, oh, this really isn't my cup of tea. But get through the first couple of chapters, because by the time chapter 3 rolls around, you're like hooked. So if you want to pick it up, then it's a great read if you get through chapter 1 and 2, considering that she's an amazing writer.
Yeah, no, I just noted it down, so I'm going to buy that book. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing about we don't have to stay where we are, and whatever we consider invisible or visible, there's always a place where we can challenge ourselves. It doesn't have to be a motorbike ride, along the edge somewhere in the Himalayas. So it doesn't have to be there, or you don't have to stand in front of the audience, but something, where you think it's just a small kind of achievement or something that you're afraid of, and say, well, those women doing it and they're afraid of it. I'm sometimes afraid when I sit on the bike, and I just really have to focus and just be really calm my mind when I'm riding along those drops and, vertigo. So it's not that I'm without fear, not at all, but it's like with every mile that I do that stuff and I getting a grip also on my emotions and my fear, that next time I have less. And that's part of, also me becoming visible on a bike, not for everyone else, but just for myself, just growing that comfort and the competence over time. So
competence.
Yeah, if you feel invisible, try something that scares you, and then see what happens.
I'm glad that you talked about that, because seeing some of the images that you post make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Oh my gosh, yes, she survived, she did it, and she's that much better for having experienced that. And I think that's something, again, you can never take that away from yourself. No. We don't have to be good at everything, but that is absolutely something that you can't take away.
Maybe just one last thing on that, growing a competence. So don't be too scared if that's something new that you want to learn. Like I've done my motorbike license 5 years ago, so it's really not that long, and I'm 57 now. Yeah, 57. So at age 52, I decided I'm going to do my motorbike license. And it's just been a roller coaster ride since. And, you know, I do a lot of off-road riding now, and I've just got so hooked. And I'm sure there's a ton of women who do it better than I do, or with their more experience. But again, that's not my level of comparison. There's a lot of women who don't ride as well as I do, or don't try to dare to go to places where I go. And it's not about comparing. All I'm saying is, you know, it's never too late to acquire a new competence or a new skill. It's just when you find something that where you get hooked, try, you know, open the box and think big. And when I started riding, I mean, I still had a job, but I no longer have that job because, you know, motorcycling just you know, just ignited the passion that I didn't know I had, and now I'm wanting to take women, you know, on motorbike tours and show them the world the way I've experienced and the freedom that I have experienced. So it's become the center part of my world within 5 years now. So until 5 years back, I didn't even think about a motorbike, and I do it 24/7. So it's and everything that comes along with it, and whether or not I'll succeed, maybe next year around this time, Mary, have another session, and I'll tell you where I'm at.
There we go. There we go. So Kerstin, let people know how they can follow you or get a hold of you.
Well, my company name is called Bike and Soul. Bike and what is that? The little thingy up, the apostrophe thingy.
Apostrophe.
And Soul. I'm on Facebook. I am on obviously Instagram and stuff. So there's only one other bike company that's with the same name, and they do push bikes. So if you look for Bike and Soul and you end up with push bikes, it's not me. If you end up on a page that talks about women and motorcycling, that's me.
But so it's Bike and Soul, a journey to the heart is her tag name. I love it. Absolutely love it. And go ahead and follow Kerstin, because she's doing some pretty amazing things. If nothing else, it's eye candy. Her pictures are nothing but eye candy of the places that she goes. And as I said, when I look at some of her pictures, the hair on the back of my neck actually stands up, because I think to myself, could I do that? And here it is. Kerstin said yes to that challenge, and she's out there creating journeys for women to take them to their heart. So Kerstin, thanks for showing up today. Next Tuesday is career endings and new beginnings. Oh boy, career endings and new beginnings. We've got a lot to talk about there. So thanks everyone for showing up. I appreciate you.
Mary.
We'll see you again.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.